So the question was about cholesterol. Yeah, about cholesterol. And here's the interesting thing about cholesterol. So cholesterol is a relatively poor indicator of heart disease. So if you have high cholesterol, what does it tell you?
Too much fat.
Too much fat. Well, this is the idea. And a lot of this comes from research that was done years ago about the dietary habits of the Western world, and a man called Ansel Keys, and you can look it all up yourself and stuff like that. But essentially, the issue is our cholesterol levels, but actually, cholesterol is a very poor indicator of heart disease. It doesn't really measure up in terms of having high cholesterol doesn't equate to having heart disease. If you were obese and you had low levels of activity, and if you had high blood pressure, and if you had a history of heart disease in your family, all these factors would add up. But by itself, cholesterol isn't really a great indicator. And the older you are, the higher your cholesterol, the longer you live. Anyway, so what's our problem? What's our issue here? Our issue isn't so much, as I said, cholesterol. Our issue is triglycerides. So our triglyceride levels are the levels that measure out the sort of how much of a problem we have. The big problem we have as far as our diet is concerned is trans fats. Okay, so trans fats are in loads and loads of things, and there are hundreds of people in this country, if not thousands of people in this country, who die prematurely every year from trans fat poisoning. It's a poison. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that trans fats are generally going to be associated with high levels of carbohydrate intake, so sugar. Sugar and carbohydrate are the same thing. Yeah? So fat doesn't make you fat. Fat has no basis to make you fat. It's very, very hard, if not impossible, to get fat on fat. So if you sat down and your diet was going to be 2 pounds of butter a day for the next 6 months, the chances are that you are going to lose a lot of weight. I know, it sounds mental, doesn't it? Yeah? Because the whole thing is, it says that 9 grams of fat, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, and 1 gram of carbohydrate is 4 or 5 calories. Well, that assumes that all carbohydrates are the same, so therefore we should up our carbohydrate intake. Well, that's mental, because it assumes that calories are... How do we get calories? Well, we put it in a calorimeter. We say how much energy, when you burn and set fire to this thing, does a calorie burn? Well, it's ridiculous. You don't burn calories like that. That's not how the body works. And so it's mental to say, you know, this amount of calories versus this amount of calories. Are you saying that a gram of carbohydrate in relation to white flour is the same as a gram of carbohydrate in relation to nuts? Well, it's stupid. It's completely two different foods. We're going to metabolize them differently. So this is how it goes. The thing is this, is that it's all down to our portal vein. It's all down to what happens in terms of how we metabolize what we take in. So if we take in fat, it kind of just sort of slips in one end and down the other end. And okay, we need to be careful about the type of animal fats we take in, the level of animal fats we have. You know, they can be relatively harmful, and there's other risk factors associated. But by themselves, the fat themselves isn't so much the issue. Right? There's mucus forming and all that other stuff going on, but by itself, the fat isn't the issue. Avocados, no problem. Smear yourself with avocado, lick it off your body. That's just my little fantasy. Okay? British Heart Foundation says cut back on avocados because they're high in calories. Well, that's mental. This is magic food. Magic food. You know, fantastic stuff. So but if you then take sugar in, okay, look, a 5-year-old can understand this. If you put fat on a slippery surface and you rub it, what does the slippery surface feel like?
Slippery.
Slippery, very good. So your artery is slippery. You see bacon fat in the pan, you go, oh, that's what it's going to be like, you know, in your arteries. Well, not at 98.6. It's going to be liquid, slippery fat. That's what's going to happen. Uh-huh. If you put sugar onto something slippery, or what does it feel like? Sticky. So if you're a diabetic and you measure your blood sugar, it tells you that your blood sugar is raised, so you have literally more sugar in your blood. How did it get there? Yeah? How did it get there? Well, again, it's back down to our portal vein. So you take the fat in, and there's your portal vein. It's just reading the paper. It doesn't give a monkey's, really, in one end and out the other. It just pops in there and pops out the other end. Nice and slippery. Off we go. Thank you very much. Yeah? Same with your proteins, with your meats or your proteins. Again, sort of breaks it down. Amino acids, thank you very much. Not really that much we have to do. Carbohydrate comes in, oh, big problem, okay? Portal vein, once you sort of digested it, loads of sugar. Carbohydrate, sugar, same thing, irrespective of whether it's white flour and, white bread, or whether it's a McDonald's bun, or whether it's, whether it's an actual sugar. About 3 teaspoons of sugar in a McDonald's bun. Anyway. So now your body's having to say, well, we've got to get rid of this. We can't have too much sugar in our system. So it phones up the pancreas, and it says, sugar coming, and the pancreas goes, right, sugar, and it phones up the islets of Langeland, which have got to be Scottish, but they're not. It's the islets of Langeland. Islets of Langeland here. Yes, we've got sugar coming. Oh, we'll launch the insulin boards, and the insulin board to push out, you see. And they're running around, and they're collecting all this sugar, yeah, from the bloodstream, because you've got too much, the insulin's going out there, and it's got to collect this sugar. Because you can't have that sugar flying around, otherwise you're going to be hyperglycemic. You're going to have this massive, you get too much blood rush, and then the insulin takes it away. So what's it going to do with the sugar? What's the insulin going to do with the sugar? It's got to find a storage house for it. So the first place it goes to is the people that are going to pay the most money for it. So it goes to the big house, which is the brain, and it knocks on the big gates leading up the big driveway, and it says, you want to buy some sugar, geezer? And I'm like, it's like Del Boy, I'm flogging in sugar. Do you want to buy some sugar, Benson? I'm very sorry, I only have very, very specialised sugars in our brain. Okay, and we don't buy sugar from you. I'll be off with you. So it says, well, what and the muscles allowed a bit, weren't they? The muscles say, well, actually, we're sort of a little bit like the brain. We'll only take specialised sugars. So the specialised sugars have to be made in a way they're not going to take raw sugar and just buy it off some dodgy salesman from the street. The liver, on the other hand, is a little bit like your middle-class Barratt housing estate, and it will buy the dodgy sugar like it buys from the old convict, the tea towels, just to get rid of them. Off the suitcase, off we go, the Betterware or whatever it is. And so now you've got about half an hour's worth that's been offloaded onto the liver, and now you've got these massive Robin Reliant filled with sugar that's got to offload it. So where's it going to take it? It's going to go down the council estate, which is your arse. Stick it down in here, whack it on here, bring it on. So,
you're filming this.
So this is what we're doing. This is every time we take the sugar in and we eat something that's low fat, you go, low fat, that's good, low fat's great. But what about the sugar? What about the salt? What about our breakfast cereal? We go, here's a healthy breakfast because it's high in fibre and it's low in fat, but actually it's loaded with sugar. You're setting yourself up, a bit of toast, a bit of brown flakes, a bit of orange juice, you're setting yourself up this massive crash about 11 o'clock, you're going, Mom. Put it into there. That's what we do with it. So sugar ends up on your bum. Now, that is pretty bad, but if you imagine that you're going to mix the sugar, you get a nice big fat vat of fat and sugar and mix it together, then we've got the problem. And if your fat is also a trans fat, we've got an even bigger problem. And it's that balance between high density lipoproteins and low density lipoproteins. So by itself, your fat isn't the issue. By itself, your cholesterol isn't the issue. But your sugar intake that you have, and if you look around you, everything is loaded with sugar. Have a pizza. It's all flour, it's all sweetened. Dolmio sauces, spaghetti bolognese. You look at how much sugar is in those sauces. There's loads of sugar in loads of stuff. And it's the carbohydrate content that we have. Don't let anybody kid you that these low carb diets are they're bad. Most of your Weight Watchers stuff, most of your standardised diets will restrict your level of carbs that you have. Alcohol, huge carbs. It's all sugar. It's all empty. Not so much calories that we're interested in. It's the carbohydrate. Empty carbohydrate. Okay. So there you go.
No honey bacon sandwiches then.
Yes, it's not the bacon. It's the bread and the ketchup, together with the butter. Fantastic. It's all things in moderation. So it's all things in moderation. But by itself, the industry that we have of cholesterol and statins is basically sort of people that are given these statins to prevent the illness or the problems that they're going to have. But we don't even know they're going to have them. We don't even know that these problems are going to occur. So it's almost preventative medicine without necessarily an outcome that we have. So, okay.
Done.
Done.